Hey everyone, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be giving you some tips to help you improve at Rocketeers, so that hopefully one day you can start playing like this. Anyways, I'm not going to waste any time, let's just hop right in. Firstly, let's start off with some easy stuff, such as maintaining your momentum. What I mean by this, to put it simply, is that you should just almost never stop moving, as well as try to move around as much as you can. But why should you do this? Well, moving slowly will mean that you're a lot easier for an opponent to hit. Meanwhile, if you're zooming all over the place, it's a lot harder to hit you. But I can never figure out how to move faster, is what you might be saying. Even if you're not, I'm about to reveal a technique that I never really seen anyone else do, so hopefully this will be an amazing move to be able to do, just on command. I do it all the time and it works, so anyways, to make this easy to understand, I'm going to break this down into steps. Step 1, you're going to want to look down while holding in the direction you want to go in. Step 2, you're going to perform a single jump. And step 3, you're going to shoot the ground to perform a rocket jump and dash at the same time. If you did this right, you should have been launched away with huge speed, just crazy speed. If you didn't do it right, there's a small adjustment that you can make to step 3, and that is, after you perform the rocket jump, wait a very small amount of time. We're talking like not even a fifth of a second, and then you dash. Hopefully this little trick ends up helping some of you. Another way to keep your momentum up is to shoot a nearby surface while you're in the air. I'll hopefully remember to put an example on the screen. If I remembered to, you'll notice that it can be good for situations where maybe you're in the air without your double jump or your dash, and it can be used to launch you super suddenly, typically towards the ground if done right, which is basically just trying to shoot slightly above you. And this can be good if you know that your opponent has a really good angle to shoot you from, and you need to just get away from wherever you currently are as fast as possible. Plus, you can always just spam single jump dashes all over the place if you need to get somewhere fast, although I wouldn't recommend doing this in an attempt to dodge, as it doesn't make you quite fast enough to be useful for that most of the time. Now that's all I have for keeping up momentum, but now I want to talk about keeping height on the opponent. Now, just like before, I'll start by explaining why you should do this. The thing is, it's generally easier to shoot someone below you than it is to shoot someone above you in this game. When you have to look up constantly to shoot at someone, it becomes very easy to end up accidentally throwing yourself off a cliff, maybe, into lava, water, or a pit of some kind, or just stepping off a cliff and landing somewhere on the map that just puts you at a huge disadvantage. Not to mention that sometimes the game likes to shoot behind you when you have a surface, which in this case, it would be the ground, super close to your camera. Meanwhile, if you look down while shooting at someone, you can see the ground and layout of the map much easier, and you generally have more information available to you. It's much easier to see where any other nearby opponents are. Meanwhile, if you're just looking up, if someone else is on a ground level, you're not going to be able to see them as easily. And also, it also allows you, if you're looking down, to see if and where someone dug a hole in the ground, which are basically death sentences if you fall into one of these while fighting someone. Now that I've explained what you get out of staying high up, let's go over what exactly you can do to get high up in the first place. First off, y'all need to start rocket jumping. I'm specifically not saying y'all need to rocket jump more, because about 80% of the player base just seems to forget that you can rocket jump in the first place. If you want height, rocket jump is the best way to get it quickly. It's super simple, super easy to use. It's not complicated, but it's so useful. Start rocket jumping. Although just remember to jump slightly before you shoot the ground so that you get a bit more height off of it. It's not required, but it does give you a little bit more height, so that can be useful if you're trying to traverse the terrain. Another thing you can do is to use the walls. Wall running is really simple in this game, and it's a quick, easy, and effective way to keep some height on someone, even just momentarily, and it can also be good for momentum. So, you're getting 2 in 1 here. You can also chain wall jumps off of 2 nearby walls to gain height pretty quickly as well. Now, speaking of using surfaces and walls to your advantage, my next tip is to actually make sure you're not near the same surface for too long. If you're rocket jumping as much as you should, then the ground shouldn't be an issue already. You should be touching the ground and almost immediately be right back in the air. However, any nearby walls can be deadly, because the opponent can just shoot at the wall that's close to you, which is obviously a lot easier to do than shooting someone that's airborne and no surfaces, so you would have to shoot them directly. In this case, they can just shoot the wall, which is presumably way bigger than you, so it's way easier, and it can end up doing splash damage to you. Usually it's not that much, but if you're really close to the wall, it's basically the same as getting shot point blank. It can do basically 70% of your health easily, even with just like a super basic shot that's like somewhat close to you, right? So, speaking of easy, it's really easy to hit someone with these kind of splash damage shots, as I've said several times, because it's true. So even if they're only doing about 25 damage every time, you only have 100 health, and once again, given how easy these shots are to hit, it can very easily drain your health very fast if you aren't careful. But didn't I just say before that wall running and wall jumping can be useful? Well, yes. Yes, I did, and it's true, nothing's changed. However, doing one of those things for too long, all at once, just opens up a bunch of opportunities for the opponent to just catch on to what you're doing, because you're doing the same thing, and they can easily start shutting you down, basically. So in general, you should try to avoid clinging to the same wall for more than a full second, if even that, unless you have all eyes on the opponents and you know that none of them are nearby or have a good shot on you. Speaking of not doing the same thing over and over again, my next piece of advice is to make sure you're not being predictable. Now, this is pretty tricky to do, and it's kind of vague, but if your goal is to not be predictable, you can't just stick to a script, basically. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again, so I can't really be anything but vague here. I can provide some helpful examples that I actually do in the game that may end up helping you, but first, I want to just go over, again, why you should do this. It's very easy to go on autopilot and start doing the same thing over and over again, but if you can avoid doing this at least too much, then it can really benefit you. In general, when I say don't autopilot, I mean if all you're doing over and over again while engaged with an opponent is rocket jump, dash, shoot, double jump, then repeat, something like that, eventually your opponent is going to catch on. Hopefully I don't have to explain why your opponent knowing what you're going to do before you even know is a bad thing. Again, can't give anything too specific here, but here's an example of something I tend to do sometimes, just to keep people guessing. In a situation like the one I mentioned a moment ago, a lot of the time I'll end up realizing that I'm just rocket jumping, double jumping, or a dash, and then I shoot, and then I do either rocket jump or the double jump, whichever one I didn't use, and then just repeat. If I catch myself doing that, and I notice the opponents are starting to catch on as well, sometimes what I'll do, rather than as soon as I land on the ground immediately starting a rocket jump, maybe I'll do a single jump dash in a certain direction I want to go in, then I might rocket jump, or maybe I'll do another single jump dash a second time, and then maybe rocket jump, maybe even a third, who knows? Maybe I'm feeling extravagant that day, maybe I'll do a fourth, you know? Or maybe I'll do that fast rocket dash trick that I taught all of you about earlier, and back in keeping up momentum, right? In general, staying unpredictable just comes down to being able to think quickly and do something different enough from what you're doing previously, but also making sure that being different doesn't equate to throwing yourself off a cliff into lava or something. Now, for my last piece of advice, it's to almost never try to just run away. I see so many people in this game who are actually doing quite decent, and then they get dropped to low health, get scared, and turn away and try to run. No, 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 no. When you turn and just run away, you're actually making it easier for your opponent to hit you, because now instead of having to worry about keeping out of the way of your shots, or having to worry about putting themselves in a bad spot on the map, and you ending up taking advantage of that and shooting them down regardless of the fact that you're at low health, or anything like that, now they can just focus all their attention towards just shooting at you and draining the last bit of health you have, which usually means they'll be more accurate, because again, they don't have to worry about all of the things that I just mentioned. I think I actually did something like this in my first, and so far besides this one, the only Rocketeers video I made. Someone actually had me at low health, but I knew that most people end up getting scared if they're also on low health, so I shot one rocket at him, and sure enough, he backed up into his hidey hole he made, even though I was focusing more of my attention on his teammate, and honestly, I'm pretty sure if he didn't back up into his hidey hole, he could have easily just killed me there. So, hopefully this explains why it's a bad idea to just back off at low health, at least in most situations. Anyway, that's all I have for today, so hopefully these tips end up helping you. If you want to see more Rocketeers videos, I plan on making more videos on this game, hopefully for a while, so be sure to leave a like and subscribe, turn on notifications to know when I upload, and I'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.